Welcome to this second of our open space evenings here in Union Chapel as part of our Lent programme with the title The Beloved Community. I'll just give a brief introduction to this evening. The phrase The Beloved Community is one that was very much valued by the late Dr. Martin Luther King, and last week we had a very fascinating talk from one of Luther King's biographers, Richard Redding, and he told us about how Luther King how his understanding of the politics and the theology of his work grew from starting with the sort of civil rights movement and the move towards the end of segregation in the South, and how that broadened out as his career went on to anti-poverty work, and then latterly to his opposition to the Vietnam War. So as he was developing his career, as his career developed, he, in a sense, drew upon a wider group of people and thinkers. Very knows about one of Luther King's collaborators who was gay, and what's his name? My brain has gone blank. But the CIA guy. No. Anyway, the head of the CIA at the same time, but it doesn't matter. Had warned Luther King that his collaborator was gay, but actually Luther King remained faithful to him, and he remained part. So we saw last week then how that vision encompassed a wider group of people. And our exploration here in the chapel of the church here over this month is to ask the question whether or not that concept of the beloved community, that wider community of people, would actually make sense, and what would it mean to us today. And quite obviously, in the time that has passed since Luther King was assassinated in 1968, there has been much wider social movements which have been of great significance. The LGBTQ, the anti-racist movement itself, Me Too, all of the work around ableism, and the peace movement, which is particularly relevant today. And there's one other social movement which has occurred really since Luther King's death, which is the environmental movement, the ecological movement, the movement for climate justice. And it struck us as we were planning this program that we couldn't leave out that particular dimension of the beloved community, but it raises a kind of interesting question. The Hebrew Bible has a really fascinating take on this, which is that all of creation praises the Creator. So you'll see, the sun praises the Creator, the moon praises the Creator, the flowers, the fields, all praise the Creator, and understands creation itself as a community, as a beloved community in itself. But then, of course, there is the place of the human being in all of that, there is a special place given to humanity in creation, to take responsibility, to have a responsibility for caring. But in a way, maybe that's not enough just to have those nice thoughts at the moment. Luther King talked about the fierce urgency of now, and he said that it's possible to be too late. So, I just want to read a quote from Martin Luther King, which is the really significant one. It's one he gave in an important speech in 1956 to a group of non-violent activists. He said, "But the end is reconciliation, the end is redemption, the end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opposers into friends. It is this type of understanding goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. It is this love which will bring about miracles in the hearts of people." So, tonight, we sort of want to think about how we can be a beloved community. Well, we can't be a beloved community without redeeming creation, and we can't be a beloved community without reconciling ourselves to creation. So that's the sort of rationale behind this evening's programme. It is, or was, potentially the most disastrous evening of my career, because yesterday our speaker said that, had a personal emergency and wasn't able to come. And then Ben said that our singer wasn't able to come either. So I thought this evening is going to be a complete wreck. But we've been saved a lot because Ben has spent the day trying to find somebody else, and Chris Christensen has agreed to come and sing for us as well, so that saved the day. And Deborah Burton, who was our speaker, sent me a video of herself giving the talk that she was going to give. And since we're so used to Zoom meetings now, it's nothing unusual, is it, just to see somebody in that sort of way. So I'm going to we're going to begin with having some music from Ben, because, are we? No, we're going to begin with a song from Chris. Thank you for the prompt. And then we'll play the, is that right? Am I right? Yeah. Okay, and then I'll play the video. Thank you.
Good evening. It's almost weird having a mic on myself, but I'll take it, it's nice. Thank you for the introduction and for the words. I don't think I'll say much more. The first song I'm going to play is called Seeds.
To
myself, what do you really want from life? Come a little closer now, show yourself to me, cry. Feel the ground that mirrors your feet, feel the tears from all of your life. Did you ever know, did you ever feel that you were meant to do or be something different? Didn't try. Did you ever stay up late at night with the moon alone in the sky while stars singing for your life? Never alone, with myself, never alone, with someone else, always alone, on my own. Never alone, no, I can choose to feel fine. Never alone, I can choose my own time to shine. Nourish it with your heart, forget time and watch it grow. Don't despair. If it looks different than you thought it would as a child, 'cause seeds are just like dreams. Sometimes they're steady, sometimes they run wild. Yeah, there's a song about ideas and dreams, and I do think that what this evening is about ideas and dreams of something else, but it's not what it is right now, and it's not a new idea, it's not a new dream, it's something that's been going on for a long time, but it's hard to get people to listen, so this song is also about having faith that even if it takes a while for people to hear, for people to come along, for these dreams and ideas to grow, that one day they will. Yeah. And the next song, I've been thinking a lot about this last week actually. Sort of, I think about a lot of things. Yeah, so a big part of like the environmental, ecological, and climate issues, systemic problem. It's like systemic in the way of how things are set up and how things are built and how things function and how we transport, etc., etc. But it's also systemic in terms of how we're taught to behave and engage and consume and do more and do better and more efficient and constantly grow in a materialistic way. And this song is about, well, it's about a person who sort of chose a slightly different path. And a path that I think, a path where you think a bit more, stop and reflect. And don't try to push all the time. It's not necessarily about bigger is better, more is better. It's about appreciating what already is. It's called Lonely Hearts No Way.
Like a stream, he moves slowly through life with no purpose to love. Purpose can't be found on the surface by those who move too fast. There are no letters to be found without slowly tracing lines. No words exist without empty space. Before and behind. Maybe for love, maybe for life. Maybe for love, maybe for life. But only hearts know why. Our children keeps on playing in the dark. Please tell us why they cry. Oh, why won't they walk in the line that we showed them so many times? But the purity they find in our love can't be explained to those who want someone else to walk 1,000 miles a day. Maybe for love, maybe for life. Maybe for love, maybe for life. But only hearts know why. They told us to follow our dreams, to be rewarded by time. But then they told us that gold is affirmation to show what choice is right. Sometimes I doubt what I do, I keep tracing lines, but trusting our hearts the only way to find out time. Maybe for love, maybe for life. Maybe for love, maybe for life. Maybe for love, but only hearts know why.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hope you have a wonderful night.
Deborah Burton from Tipping Point North South has sent us 3 videos. I'll play first two, and then just see if there's any comments that people want to make and contribute, and then we'll watch the third, which is very short.
Hello everybody, good evening. I'm really sorry I can't be with you there on Wednesday evening for our Lent talk, but I suggested to Vaughan that I offer up some kind of a presentation. I mean, broadly speaking, this would be what we'd be chatting about with you this evening, so I hope this nevertheless gives you some idea of what we're about, what we're trying to do. My name is Deborah Burton, as Vaughan has probably mentioned, and I am with a small organisation called Tipping Point North South. And Tipping Point grew out of the work of a number of us who had been Christian aid campaigners, working on a whole raft of, going back to the debt campaign, debt cancellation. I worked on the trade and tax justice campaigns and a little bit of the climate campaign. And what we were set up to do, what we decided we wanted to do, was to be able to move into that area where cinema documentary, which was starting, this is the sort of late 2000s, cinema documentary was starting to come into its own as a really useful tool for public awareness raising, and we had worked on a film particularly called Black Gold at Christian Aid on coffee aid trade, and that sort of inspired us to keep running with that. So we set up Tipping Point. We work on film, events and campaigns. Now increasingly we're very much campaigns weighted, though we are still very much interested in staying with the idea of film as a tool for change. As you know, I'm here to chat about primarily our military spending and emissions work, and it's doubly relevant because of the work that we've also done on Martin Luther King, and we're absolutely over the moon that Vaughan is screening from Montgomery to Memphis, which was completed, actually it started and completed in the year after King's assassination in 1968. And it tracks 13 years, the full 13 years of King's activism, from the 1955 bus boycotts right the way through to the very end. And central to King's teachings, you could say, at the end, and radicalism, was this poverty, racism, militarism, the indivisibility of those three things. And so if you haven't booked to see the film on the 26th of March at Union, do if you can. It's a phenomenal piece of work, and I would say for some people almost life-changing. I didn't quite see activism and campaigning in the same way after I saw that film. We were thrilled to be able to get the rights to screen it. So Our Talk Now sort of fits with that 26th of March. So some years back, we got involved in a film called We Are Many, which was Amir Amirani's sort of for the record telling, comprehensive telling of how the global anti-Iraq war marches came to be. And while that film was underway, I was thinking about something I thought a lot about before, and I talked about it even at Christian Aid, which was why and how do we get this issue of runaway global military spending onto the development agenda? Because through my eyes, it seemed as if it would, in the same bag as debt, indebtedness, and unfair trade, and tax evasion, and climate injustice, in that it seemed to be embedded in all of those things, actually, directly and indirectly. But it was also, you could also see it as an underlying structural cause of poverty and inequality. And so We Are Many was moving along, and on that film I met this incredible man, Ho Chi Lin, Dr. Ho Chi Lin, and together we continued on working after We Are Many, and Ho Chi and I now work incredibly closely. And together we came up with a sort of a formula, some kind of a thinking framework for how you could realistically, equitably, globally, drive down military spending budgets, sort of hold them there and push them even further down. And also then, of course, reallocate potentially trillions that are left to actual human need and increasingly human safety need. And so we were working on the military spending, Ho Chi and I, for a number of years, off and on, when it really started to sort of ratchet up again. That was a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when we started looking at the link between military spending and military emissions. And what we realized was that without significant military spending, these big budgets, and 87%, by the way, of the annual global military spend is by the G20 nations. So you're talking about the 192 countries in the world. So it's a very small number of countries that are responsible for the vast bulk of that. And remember, 5 are on the top 5 of the Permanent Security Council are in that top 20. And so we were looking at this, the emissions spending, and what you realize without the spending, or the spending rather, enables the emissions, because a lot of that military spend is on fossil fuel, heavily reliant fossil fuel hardware. Warships, tanks, F-35 jets, and the F-35 fighter jet, which is the latest, all whistles and bells, coming off the production line, drinks 6,000 litres of fuel per flying hour. And bear in mind, the thing that I find interesting about all of this is all of this development, the F-35 has taken 20 odd years to develop. 2 trillion cost of development, that one plane. And they were developing that plane in the teeth of the knowledge of climate change. So we argue that military spending and greenhouse gas emissions, military greenhouse gas emissions are indivisible. And so a couple of years ago, we wrote a report on this, and we coupled it with a report on value for money, military spending, global military spending versus, you could say, human need, human safety need. We use the word safety rather than security. And these 2 reports a couple of years ago were the sort of foundation stones for bringing all of this military work that we do together under a banner called Transform Defence. Transform Defence for sustainable human safety. So we launched that in December 2020. And we knew that the following year, 2021, would be leading to COP. And so for us, we had a really, really, really strong push to bring this stuff together and start to put it out there. Our primary focus, one of our primary target groups, you could say, is the international development community. Because when they get behind something, we know that the oxygen of publicity is drawn to it. And so last year for COP, we led on an open letter to the G7, G20 in advance of COP, calling for this, number one, for this issue to be recognised and on the agenda, and then with 4 recommendations, one of which included the call for an IPCC special report into the role of the global military on climate change. And for that letter, we were able to secure, and it really was a kind of a coming out of the idea, you could say, Christian Aid, CAFOD, Greenpeace, a number of terrific experts, development experts in the field. Professor Michael E. Mann in the US, on whom Leonardo DiCaprio's character was based in the film Don't Look Up. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic, Don't Look Up. So we had something like 32 signatories to this letter. And so we moved towards COP. And when COP came, by the time COP came, we were part of a very small group of organizations, institutions, research institutions, peace movement groups who are working on military spending and emissions. I think it's fair to say that at that COP, as I describe it, the military emissions cat absolutely leapt out of the bag. We got media coverage, it got media coverage, other organizations got media coverage. And so it broke out. And for us, particularly significantly, we were able to sort of bring it into the inboxes and onto the desks of senior figures inside the development sector. And so this year, we're building on this. We continue our military spending work on this call for an IPCC report into military emissions. But we're also going to focus more so this year on the military spending versus, for example, gaps in SDGs funding, the Sustainable Development Goals funding. There is a 2 to 4 trillion gap on that over until the end of this decade, 2030. There is still not enough money being given for climate finance on the part of rich countries to developing countries for climate finance, and there is a call out there which goes under the title loss and damage, which is kind of insurance to countries in the global south who have been on the receiving end of climate change for a very long time already, mopping up, no resources to mop up. Loss and damage also leapt out of the bag at COP. I think Scotland's the only country to put some millions of first money into this pot. And so this year we'll be focusing on drawing the development sector's attention to that. Where all of this is going in the long term for us is this transformed defence concept. And for us, the military spending and the emissions are but stepping stones towards a wider debate on the inadequacy of this term defence. It's completely inadequate. And we can see now what's going on, Russia-Ukraine standoff with NATO. It's insane. It's insane. And so we are saying that it's as clear as the nose on our face that climate change, pandemic, we add to this profoundly underfunded peacekeeping. That well-funded peacekeeping is conflict prevention. Profoundly underfunded peacekeeping and also inequality. We say that these 4 things are absolutely foursquare belonging in the defence bag, except we need better language. And so the transformed defence concept is something that we would like to get out there in the same way as drop the debt, cancel the debt, tax justice, trade justice. And And so if we come back to King, the incredible thing about King and the shocking thing about King is his poverty, racism, militarism analysis from the early 1960s is arguably more relevant now than it was then. We know we're in for the long haul. The tragedy in all of this, as we see Ukraine, Russia, is we are running out of time. As a species, we are running out of time. On every measurement, we are running out of time. And if this were 30 years ago, I'd be saying, okay, we've got 30 years to get this transformed defense concept out there. We don't have that time. Nevertheless, you watch the King film and you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you have to keep speaking truth to power, and you have to just stay focused. So I'll end it there. I've talked for 14 minutes. I'll leave it there. I hope I've given you all a little bit of food for thought, shared some information with you maybe you didn't know before. We have a website, transformdefense.org. We have and you don't need to be on Twitter. You can just Google Twitter. We are at TR_defense, or just the website has our Twitter address on. We have some very interesting stuff that we share on. Actually, Ho Chi is our Twitter king. He's across a hell of a lot of information, and it's more as a wonderful digest of what's going on out there on all of these broadly related topics. So that's us. Thank you. I am really sorry I can't be with you there, but hopefully maybe we can come back and have a longer session. Enjoy the film if you get to see it. And the other thing is, I'm going to send Vaughan a couple of little films over. He may or may not show them, but if he does, particularly our one on COP, it's a short piece and it gives you a flavour of where we're at. Okay, enjoy the rest of your evening. I know there's a lot more on the programme, and thanks again. Take care now. Bye.
Well, I forgot to say that it was Deb's providing us with the King film on the 26th, and that's actually great. They've got the rights to show that very rarely seen film. It's made by Sidney Lumet. Before we just show the other little video that Deb has given us, did anybody just want to feel like they'd like to say something in response to what she said? I can let her know. She has promised that if we wanted to do something at another time to talk further, because I do think it's a really interesting concept, and a really interesting campaign which brings together not just the climate justice issues, but militarism and anti-poverty work, which, as she also said, were the three things that really were on Martin Luther King's agenda. Well, they actually got it onto COP agenda, so which is quite an amazing thing. I mean, to get it on there, and as I understand it, they're planning to to push it on to COP27, which is going to be in Addis Ababa. I believe Addis Ababa, yeah. And so I think they're working on a kind of interfaith event at the COP27 in Addis, to try and really keep this further on the agenda. I mean, it's a really hard one, but it's because you can see what's going on in the world now, and as this kind of focus on militarism because of Ukraine, you can see how the climate agenda will just drop down. It'll be seen as secondary to security and defence, which of course it isn't. I mean, it's primarily it's about security and defence, isn't it? Because there are going to be wars because of climate change. Does anybody want to say anything, or do we want to see the thing and we listen to some music, have a meditation? Kathy's here as well to do a meditation tonight for us, so I can see you're all wanting that to happen. So I'll play you the other video if you like, and then we'll have some time to meditate together, and then we'll have some nice music, we hope.
Our only hope today lies in our ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit and go out into a sometimes hostile world, declaring eternal opposition to poverty, racism, and militarism.
in the room. connection to your breath. And this is not, we're not trying to do anything to our breath or change it at all, just noticing it. Just being with our breath. Noticing how it glides in, glides out. Again, just noticing our breath with a sense of curiosity or even appreciation. And widening our awareness to all the other breathing, all the other breaths in this room, all the other people in this room breathing in and out, other beings outside this room, all breathing in and out. And now we're going to go to the gong bath. And for those of you who haven't experienced a gong bath before, you don't have to do anything. It's really just a question of enjoying the sounds and just letting the sounds wash over you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Chris. Just amazing music tonight. You get the idea of what these Wednesday evenings are about. I mean, some talk, some meditation, and some music. What a nice way to spend a Wednesday night, it seems to be. Next week, we have, continuing the theme of the beloved community, we have LGBTQ and LGBTQ plus the beloved community. And our speaker will be Macaulay, the Reverend Jide Macaulay, who is an Anglican priest, a Nigerian Anglican priest, who has written quite extensively about gay people and the church, and is HIV positive and is willing to share his work with us next week. And we have music from an array of people, all associated with our chapel and have all taken part in our Sunday services in one way or another. So Ben again, Jacqueline Rosenfeld, Anita Dowter, George Haggart, and there's one other, Barnaby, who should be here tonight but isn't because he's ill. So let's hope he's better for next week. And that would be absolutely great. So thank you all very much. If you haven't got one of our brochures, take one. Do come next week. Bring a friend. Bring two friends. And Sunday morning also we have our church service with Union Chapel Voices singing. And on the 26th of March, as you've already heard, Saturday night in the main chapel on the big screen, we are showing the documentary King from Memphis to the other way around. From Montgomery to Memphis, okay. And that will be an amazing film. It was made by Sidney Lumet, assisted by Joseph Bankovitz, and great Hollywood film directors. And this film has hardly ever been seen. It was kind of locked away and has recently been restored. And Debs, who you saw on the video, has secured the rights for non-profit use in the UK. So we'll be able to show it for free. Well, we have to show it for free because we can't charge because it's non-profit. So please come along to that. What else can I say except have a good night and thank you all for coming. And the bar's still open.